Hey y'all, so we're back, and guess what? We're working on MechBuy again. I know I haven't worked on MechBuy in a few months on the channel, so I've gotten a lot of feedback related to MechBuy from those that have been using it, and there are some recurring themes. I've gotten some notes about some issues that users have experienced, and after I kind of did some debugging and looked through some of my logging and stuff that I had set up previously, I realized it's not performing the way I really want it to, and specifically, kind of what is the bottleneck is actually the front end, because I coded it very poorly. So I've been looking into some alternatives because I've been using just like plain React, the plain Create React app, which is using Webpack. And I haven't really explored the correct way of doing a production like React app, like in that regard. Right. So I have kind of all these different frameworks mashed together on the front end to make it all work. And I realized that's what's causing me some of the issues. So I'm going to change by just using a framework that will kind of handle all the things I'm already doing on the front end. So that's why I'm going to change over to NextJS. If you're not familiar with NextJS, it is a React framework very similar to the Nuxt framework for Vue. But it can handle a lot of stuff. Like it has different rendering schemes built in, so you can do like server-side rendering, static page generation, etc., etc. It can automatically handle API routes for you, like you can create APIs with it very easily, and you can do many other things. So long story short, it handles a ton of things for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my framework over to it. And I know what you're thinking, wow, you built the API in Go, you're just gonna scrap all that? No, we're still gonna use it because you can still use any sort of backend with Next.js, and then Next.js can kind of just handle the front end. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with, they have a guide on their website, and in this guide, it kind of is like, hey, if you're moving from this type of React app, it's a migration guide. So it's like, if you're moving from this type of React app, you know, here are the kind of steps you can follow. So what we're gonna do is essentially, I'm just gonna branch off of my current UI branch, and we're just going to completely move it over to Next.js and scrap everything we don't need. In addition to that, we're also going to change up some of the other frameworks I'm probably using as well, because some of them won't be necessary anymore. So just come along with me and we'll kind of go through it as we do. And yeah, I'll try to update you all along the way. I also figure before I actually go ahead and change everything, I can just go ahead and show you all kind of what it looks like right now. So if you go to MechBuy.club, this is what you'll see. So, you know, our front end is pretty basic. It just has two buttons, sign in and sign up. And then a quick link to a video I have on my YouTube channel. That's a quick little tutorial about how it kind of works. So I'm going to log in. And after I log in, you can see that once we're in here, this is pretty much it. We have all of our queries. It's kind of weird because it takes up this whole window. And then again, the donate button is kind of weird. This version number doesn't actually update. Add query button. Now this is still nice. I do like how it is in mobile and it does pop up and you can add a query, but I would also like to have like a little bit of a info tag or something here to explain kind of what a query is, how that matching works. But you can see here are my current queries. If I click on them, it's another thing, it gets really big, and you get the big delete button, right? I don't think that's necessary. I would like to clean this up somehow. Not exactly sure how I want that to look, but a little bit better than this. And if you go under account, there's absolutely nothing other than log out, right? So yeah, so we're just gonna log on out, and when you log on out, you're taken back to this screen. And then another thing that is weird, so if you're here, there's no way to get back to the home page, right? Like you'd have to change the URL once you're on the login page. And then if you go to like register, then once you're on the register page, you can't, then you don't have a button for login, you don't have a button to go back to the home screen. It's literally just like you're here now. But yeah, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna start by just going into the docs for Next.js, because they have a whole migration guide, and specifically migrating from the Create React app, which is what our application kind of is. So we're gonna start there, starting the actual migration. So I'm about to branch and then actually start. Do me a favor, just hit the like button if you're enjoying this video, or if you enjoyed any of the videos on my channel. And hey, if you really like this video, then hit the subscribe button. Thanks. All right, so after that little coding montage you all just saw, pretty much the basic functionality of the website works, and by basic functionality I mean the navigation system does work. So when you click on a link, it does take you to the appropriate page now. but none of the actual backend logic works. So there is no signing in. It isn't sending any information back to the server. It's not receiving anything. So what we're going to start tomorrow is we're going to come back and we're actually going to hook up the server functionality, and then we're going to figure out the authentication and the session management, because NextJS actually offers a lot of that, which is something I was kind of doing as a pre-baked solution. Like I have my custom auth provider that I was using. So hopefully we'll be able to scrap all of that, because mine probably wasn't implemented the best, and use theirs, which I'm sure is a lot more efficient. Hey guys, a lot of this portion of me coding was actually done live on Twitch. I stream Tuesday, Thursday at 6 p.m. over at twitch.tv/ShandonCodes. So come on over and join me if you want to see this stuff happen live. My link will be down in the description. I've gotten the actual UI functioning back to the level it was. So, you can sign in, you can register accounts, you can log out, all that good stuff is stored and state is updated accordingly. Now what I need to do is the last bit, which is changing up the styles, which is kind of one of the reasons I rewrote the application. So I rewrote the application for two reasons. One, I didn't really like using just the vanilla React framework. It was a little bit clunky and I was definitely hacking away at a few things. So I think Next came into play. But one of the other major reasons why I wanted to do the update was the UI wasn't very responsive, and also it used Tailwind CSS, which was my first time using Tailwind, so it was really cool. I learned a lot about Tailwind. I actually made a video about some bugs I found in Tailwind. I'll link that up here. But in addition to that, it came with a lot of problems. Like Tailwind, while it is very powerful and very cool and very neat, it does have its own issues. And so I found this other framework called Pico. So Pico CSS is a very lightweight CSS framework, and so they show a really good example here. So they show this sort of bulky snippet where you're defining like a lot of classes and class names, and so that's exactly what my code looks like. This is what my current code looks like with Tailwind CSS. So yeah, I have a grid, and then you have to do grid columns, and then the gap and item center and all these class names. And as you can see, it bloats my overall code, right? And hopefully we can just simplify this front-end code base a lot, because we've already simplified it a lot by using like NextJS instead of some of the hacky things I was doing with React. So now hopefully we can simplify the code even more. And yeah, that's what I'm gonna be working on now. Just thought I'd mention, all of these clips are sped up to like 800 times their original speed, because it takes hours going through documentation and learning new things and figuring out how I want to build my application. So yeah, it could be a little bit hard cramming it all in a few minutes, but I try to do my best and try not to make these scenes too long, but somewhat interesting. So I'm working on that. So let me know if there's anything I can do to make it a little bit more interesting when I do these little coding cutaways. Yeah, the port is done. For the most part, I gotta do some tidying up. Like I needed, change my little fav icon up here to something a little bit more standard for MechBuy. I don't really have a logo for MechBuy yet, but I do need to change that. But either way, it's done. The login screen looks good. The navigation system is working the way I want it to. The FAQ page is now fully updated. Everything's now using the new styling. So now all I have to do is really just go through and kind of clean up the code that is left behind. There's just code that I'm not using anymore, because to a degree I tried to reuse some things, but a lot of things just got completely modified or just not being used at all anymore. So I just need to go through, do a big cleanup, make sure everything is tidied up the way it needs to be. Other than that, it's good. So I think we're going to come back kind of in a future video is working on the deployment, because now that this works, I do want to actually deploy it. Well guys, that's pretty much going to be it for this video. On the next one, I'm going to go through kind of the steps as I learn to deploy using GitHub Actions. But until then, I'll see you all later. And if you like this channel, please go ahead, hit that sub button, hit that like button. And if you'd like to see me when I code live, follow me on Twitch. My Twitch is in the description down below. I'll see you all next time. Bye.